Hi, it's time for another verb of the day. Today's verb is stake, and this verb was suggested by the viewer Hassan Mohammed. Hassan Mohammed, thank you so much for this suggestion. Now, let's spend a moment reviewing some of the definitions or ways that we can use this verb. The first way you may encounter the verb stake means to fasten, secure, or support something with a stake or stakes. Now, I don't always love doing this, but you can tell there's already a noun form of this word by this first definition. And we'll discuss exactly what that means. But for now, I want you to think of some kind of like wooden or metal thing that's inserted into the ground. And again, there are many reasons that people might use these. If you're somebody who enjoys camping, you may have used a stake to secure your tent to the ground so that it wouldn't blow away. You also, if you're a gardener, you might have used stakes to help a plant start to grow more vertically and not out to the side or in kind of an awkward direction. All of those definitions are tied, or all of those meanings, I should say, are connected to this first definition. A second way you may encounter the verb stake could mean to mark the location or limits of with stakes. So again, we might be talking about something you stick into the ground. This might be done when something is being constructed or built. It could also be used as kind of a, stay out of this area type of way. So that would be the limit of maybe where someone is allowed to move around to. A third way to use the verb stake could mean to claim, establish, or register something as one's own. Right? So you're kind of saying this belongs to me. A fourth way you may encounter the verb stake can mean to gamble money or something else of value on the outcome of a particular game or race. We'll see some more examples of that as we go along. For now, you should know that stake is a regular verb. If you want to make the progressive form of this verb, you're going to drop the E on the end before you add ing. And we're doing that because the verb stake ends in the pattern of vowel, consonant, E. The progressive form is going to be pronounced like this: staking, staking. Okay? The past tense and the participle form of our verb can be made by just adding the letter D. Since this verb already ends in an E. Now the base verb, stake, ends in a K sound. Right? This means our EG ending is going to make a T sound. This K sound is unvoiced. So whenever we have an unvoiced sound and we add ED to it, we're going to make a T sound. And we're not going to add an extra syllable to the verb when we pronounce it. So the past tense and the participle form of our verb should sound like this: staked, staked. Okay? Now, this is a verb that has a number of phrasal verbs connected to it. So we're going to focus today's discussion on those phrasal verbs, and I'll try and do a little verb tense review as we go along. The first phrasal verb we'll discuss is to stake off. One way to use this phrasal verb is to describe the action of marking the boundary of some area, usually or most commonly with stakes, so the things you're going to stick in the ground. An example of this might be, she staked off a small area for her first garden. This sentence is in the simple past tense. We're describing a completed action here. And so maybe someone has inserted various wooden posts to kind of help guide them as to where they're going to till and then ultimately plant their first garden. A second way to use stake off could mean to claim or reserve something or some area for oneself. An example of this: I will stake off a spot for us to watch the parade. So here's an example of the simple future using will So maybe someone's making an offer or a promise here. This was a big thing in my hometown. Every June there was a very popular parade, and people would go and put blankets and lawn chairs in certain areas to kind of claim that as their spot. I think they started doing it so far in advance they had to make rules around what time it was permissible to put your lawn chair out. And this is on public streets, just to give you that important insight there. Let's move on to another phrasal verb. The next one is to stake on. This phrasal verb also has multiple meanings. One way to use it is to lay something as a wager or a bet. An example of this might be, he has staked a lot on this game. This is an example of the present perfect. And again, we're generally here saying someone has bet a great deal of money. And what's a lot to one person might not be to another. I tend to look at all bets as like, oh, just because, I don't know, we all work so hard for our money. And the idea of just giving it away does not sound like fun. Another way to use stake on could mean to risk losing or damaging something if something else is not successful. So in some ways, this is similar to wagering or betting on something, but here it's not just money. It could be something intangible like one's reputation. An example of this, she is staking her career on this new business venture. This is an example of the present progressive or present continuous. So we're talking about something that is happening now or is in progress. So here, maybe she gave up a very successful or high-level position in an organization to do this, and she might not be able to get that position back. So that's one of the risks or the potential for damage. Now let's discuss another phrasal verb, and that last one we'll discuss is to stake out. This can have a number of different meanings. We're going to discuss 3 of them. The first way it gets used can mean to keep a place under surveillance. An example of this might be, the thieves had been staking out the bank for 2 weeks prior to their crime. This is the example of a sentence in the past perfect progressive. So kind of talking about an ongoing activity in the past there, but is now complete. So what this sentence might be describing is the thieves were looking for patterns, maybe what time certain things occur, maybe when there are fewer people working. But essentially surveillance here is kind of continued or ongoing watching of something. Related to that second definition, stake out, could mean to assign an officer or maybe other kind of security personnel to an area to conduct surveillance. An example of this, the police were staked out across the street. This is passive voice in the simple past tense, and something I feel like if you watch movies where there's kind of like a whodunit or kind of crime aspect to it, you might encounter this usage. So they're aware that something bad is either happening or going to happen, and so they're watching or very closely watching it to build a case against someone. Now, a third way you could use stake out might mean to mark the boundary of an area with stakes. So again, we're back to that kind of wooden, could be metal markers in the ground. An example of this could be, the utility workers staked out the areas where pipes and cables were buried. This is something you might see a lot of in the United States and probably other places as well, but little flat, sometimes different colored flags will be stuck into the ground, maybe to indicate there's some kind of cable or there's a particular kind of pipe under the ground so that other construction workers do not strike it as they are doing work. That last sentence is another example of the simple past tense, but this is in the active voice. Now, let's spend a moment looking at some words that are related to our verb stake. And as I indicated earlier, you could probably tell that we have a noun form of this word. The noun stake has the exact same spelling and the exact same pronunciation as our verb. This noun also has a number of different meanings. And the first way we can use it is to, again, talk about some strong wooden or metal post that has a point that makes it easier to go into the ground. And it might be there to support a tree, form part of a fence, act as some type of boundary marker, or could have a number of different purposes or functions. So an example of this in a sentence might be, we added stakes to all the newly planted fruit trees. And I've got a picture in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen to help you kind of see or understand what that might look like. And again, many times the purpose is to get things to grow in a very straight or upright way. A second way to use the noun stake is to refer to a sum of money or something else that maybe have high value that's either gambled on due to some kind of risky game or maybe some type of venture. An example of this, the stakes were high for Trump's meeting with Putin. So this is how many people felt, particularly the people of Ukraine who are going to be most directly impacted by those discussions and kind of the ongoing nature of Russia's invasion and war. A third way to use the noun stake is to refer to a share or interest in some type of business, maybe an interest in a situation or some kind of system. So someone might ask you, what's your stake in this new business? So they kind of want to know, how much have you invested, or what percentage of the ownership belongs to you? A fourth way you may encounter the noun stake is to refer to a type of horse race in which all the owners sort of contribute to the prize money. So an example of this could be, the Belmont Stakes is held every June. This is one of the, I would say, 3 most famous horse races in the United States. Part of the Triple Crown. That's why we've got the 3 there. But you can see that noun form being used as part of the event's name. Now, I've got 2 phrases for us that we may encounter, and that first phrase is for something to be at stake. This is another way of describing something is at risk, or it's in jeopardy, it's subject to being won or lost. An example of how you might hear this used. People's lives are at stake. I feel like I've heard this in various movies and TV shows, right? So someone trying to point out, like, we have a sense of urgency, or we have to make a really good decision because we are putting people in jeopardy or at risk of losing their lives. One more phrase for us today. It's to stake a claim. This ties back to one of our earlier definitions of a verb, but again, it generally means that someone is asserting their right to something. They're claiming ownership of something. An example of this might be, the mining company has staked a rare earth minerals claim in a national forest. What they're saying is, like, these things belong to us and we're going to remove them from the ground. Thanks again to Hassan Mohammed for suggesting today's verb. I thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great day.